I don't believe he was motivated politically. I think this was motivated emotionally. I think this was a emotionally stunted person who literally, when I say it this way, just hear me, tried to defend his significant other, not trying to defend some ideology.
Hey guys, so we have some new information about the alleged assassin in the Charlie Kirk murder case. That's 22-year-old Tyler Robinson. Some text messages between Tyler Robinson and his live-in boyfriend, roommate, whatever, were released. And they purport to show Tyler Robinson basically confessing everything over text, explaining his entire plan, talking about the gun, writing on the bullet casings, etc. But the takeaway that some leftists are having from this text message exchange is about the loving relationship between these two men. So you have to hear this to believe it. And of course, it was on Abby Phillips' show on CNN, because that's where the greatest minds of our generation congregate to, work out these generational philosophical problems, and they solve them on this show on Abby Phillips on CNN. But just listen to this panelist explain his impressions of the alleged shooter.
There are people who are trying to pigeonhole this as a leftist thing and a right thing. And what we're really talking about, hear me because I'm going to throw you when I say this, we're talking about a love-torn child, a kid. This is probably his first real relationship, and somebody was disparaging the person that he loved. He sat on that building for 30 minutes before he took the shot. Why did he wait until the first word trans came up? Then he took the shot.
You think he heard it? He could hear it?
I think he could hear it. I think he also, I don't believe he was motivated politically. I think this was motivated emotionally. I think this was a emotionally stunted person who literally, when I say it this way, just hear me, tried to defend his significant other, not trying to defend some ideology.
Okay, so you just know that we are going to have a sympathetic Hollywood biopic or, movie inspired by real events based on this assassination. And it's probably going to portray someone who, looks very much like Tyler Robinson as almost this, heroic figure, defending his princess in the tower. Of course, in this case, the princess happens to have a penis. So, make of that what you will. But this is utterly ridiculous. Okay, so he says, well, it's an emotional thing. It's not a political thing. But then he also says that he thinks that the assassin took a shot when he heard the word trans. So obviously these two things are intertwined. And what the right is saying is that we are noticing a pattern of trans shooters, of trans-related violence and shootings, and that this is pretty unsurprising because the rhetoric has been conservatives don't want trans people to exist. That's the left's argument. They say we are just fighting for our existence. I mean, they're framing this as basically a genocidal campaign by the right. And so, yes, if you accept that premise that you are being genocided or that your boyfriend is part of this genocide, then you are very likely to feel emotionally upset and take extreme action. But this is not all from this panelist. So if he's writing this whole script for us for this movie, he has more theories about how Tyler Robinson's family's politics might have figured into this.
Although I do think there's clearly an ideological difference. That's why I played about what they said about the family. I mean, the ideological difference that he was reacting to wasn't just Charlie Kirk. It was also maybe his dad. I mean, his father was, according to him, MAGA. So that conflict was there, clearly.
But this is a young man who's dating a person in transition. And I'm a conservative father, and
Okay, I've never heard that phrase before, dating a person in transition. I would assume most people are dating or married or, interacting with people in transition, in transit from one place to another. Growing older is a sort of transition, so not happy that word has been, exclusively claimed by the community of people who are cutting off their genitals and advocating for children to cut off their genitals. Okay, anyway. So first, leftists said, oh, this is a white guy and he has good aim. No, they didn't say that, but they said this is a white guy and he comes from a Republican MAGA family. He's from Utah. He's maybe Mormon. So we know that he was conservative. We know he was a Groyper. He was actually to the right of Charlie Kirk, and that totally false theory is still being circulated on platforms like Blue Sky. But since more evidence has come out, the narrative has shifted a little bit. It's, well, maybe he was just reacting against his hateful MAGA father. Maybe he was just defending his loved one from hatred. So they're going to do anything they can to minimize the scale of this and to pretend like it has nothing to do with very mainstream Democrat rhetoric. So I have one more clip here from this panel, which I think speaks to that, where Abby Phillip plays dumb, as she often does on this show, and pretends that she's not really aware of the scores of people celebrating the Kirk assassination, who are almost uniformly on the left.
You have to kind of, the internet is not real.
Can I ask, though, everybody here acknowledges that there have been thousands upon thousands of people, ordinary people, who have taken to social media to celebrate this, yes or no?
I don't know about that. I don't know.
I have high school friends who are.
Hold on a second. Hold on. I just think we should we got to be factual about this, right?
Yeah.
I don't think you know the scope. I don't know the scope. But I do think that we have to distinguish between random people in the world and something that is a dominant issue.
Because the person who shot Charlie Kirk was a random person in the world, was he not?
Well, here's the thing.
That's the danger. You dismiss the random people of the world. They have access to weapons
assassinations
and
in
hateful
this country.
motivations.
There have been political assassinations in this country before, Scott. Wouldn't you agree? And they're all reprehensible. And in this country, do you believe that in those political assassinations in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 80s, assassination attempts, that there were no Americans who cheered that on? I think the question is whether or not it happens. The question is whether or not we need to place that at the very center of our political world right now and categorize half the people in the country according to those random people that we now just happen to see because of the internet.
Okay, Abby, it's a very good attempt to play this whataboutism game. But no, we need to focus on this right now because there are a mass of people who are celebrating this. And no, it's not everybody who's on the left or espouses certain liberal beliefs, but it's enough. And it's extremely concerning. I also want to say that I really don't believe her. I mean, where was Abby Phillip when, people were being fired during the height of the Black Lives Matter movement because they weren't showing proper deference, to their to their racial betters or whatever was demanded of us because they weren't taking the knee. I mean, for years, random people of the world, of America, were singled out for cancellation, for firing, for basically, shunning, social isolation, for extraordinarily minor offenses. There was a Hispanic guy, a utility worker, who says he was cracking his knuckles in 2020. He made an okay sign, sort of by accident. Someone snapped a picture of it and got him fired for that. Because, middle-aged Hispanic guys are extremely well-versed in internet culture. They always go around throwing up okay signs as subtle white supremacist dog whistles. This is the ridiculousness that we were dealing with, and there was no mass outrage from any of the major cable news channels, as far as I can recall, about the fact that Americans were being subjected to this incredible stifling. But anyway, what do you think of this panel? What do you think of their theories about Tyler Robinson and all the rest of it? Let me know in the comments section below. Give this video a like, hit subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.